Welcome to the Illusions of Reality with your hosts, Bert Baxter and Kincaid.
Welcome, our friends, to the Illusions of Reality, your one-stop shop for conspiracy theory, current events, politics, and the discussion of reality. I'm your host, Kincaid. With me, as always, is Bert Baxter. Today, we're going to be going into the hot topic of the conspiracy theory world right now, if you will. And I'm talking about the flat Earth fiasco. We've all seen it. It's receiving mainstream media attention now. With us today is a special guest, one of the behind-the-scene members of our Illusion of Reality team, our good friend Jay. Jay, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us. So this whole flat Earth fiasco, gentlemen, it's receiving mainstream attention now. It's very prevalent all over every CT site. It's everywhere. What in the world? I mean, what do you make of it?
Well, at first when I heard about it, I immediately thought it was kind of disinformation to discredit the conspiracy theory movement. That was my first instinct.
Psyop?
Yeah.
And when you talk about its prevalence in latter day, things, especially how mainstream it is right now, it almost seems to only be for the reason of being skewed. I don't ever really see serious discussions. I see more of a how ridiculous and how stupid are these people that believe in this, and it's prominent scientists and people that are heads of that kind of thing that are just really skewing the whole idea.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like, of course, we all frequent a lot of the CT forums and whatnot, and a lot of what I'm seeing is those people that are bringing up valid, good arguments on it are quickly derailed. Like, for anybody on the fence who doesn't know or just doesn't even care, who might be looking into the subject for the first time, those people that are hitting on a lot of good talking points, instantly ridiculed, called a
Absolutely.
tinfoil hat wearing maniac. How could you even believe that the world is flat?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not too long ago, everybody did, and you were a lunatic for thinking the opposite way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could look at it both ways, but I mean, it's really bubbling up to where it's like the hottest topic in the CT world outside of politics in certain locations right now, and it's even receiving mainstream media attention. Did you see where the rapper B.O.B. has been tweeting about flat Earth and whatnot?
Yeah.
And then
It's like they're really the only public figure that claims to believe in flat Earth is a rapper.
Right. Championing the cause of flat Earth for...
Right, who's immediately open to any sort of scrutinization. Not only the guy that comes to be the nemesis in that fight is, the Neil deGrasse Tyson, who, just listening to that guy talk, pretty much sounds like the preeminent expert on whatever he's talking about, or so you're led to believe, just with his diction and kind of the way he explains things.
Well, B.O.B. wouldn't stand a fighting chance. Because, this guy's popping bottles, and here comes the scientist.
Right.
They've been building Neil deGrasse's his following and his reputation, So over the past few years, when there's a show like they have the Universe, all the shows on PBS, every time they have shows about planets and the universe, Neil deGrasse is almost always on it. They have the shows like Big Bang Theory. They'll have him show up as a recurring character to build his likability, that he can be funny and
credibility, kind of a celebrity. Yeah, his
celebrity.
He's taken hold more of a celebrity these days. But like you said, in with that is his expertise on the subject. So it's
He's familiarized now.
Yeah.
He's like the familiarized, friendly.
Yeah.
Science world face that they could be like, well, Neil deGrasse said.
Right.
Did you guys see where he was on Comedy Central and he retorted back to B.O.B.'s tweets? So basically, B.O.B. goes out there and tweets. I don't know B.O.B. I don't listen to his music, so I can't comment on him either way. But, I mean, speaking his mind, great. That's awesome. I'm all for that. Okay, so he's got the Twitter world abuzz with the whole flat Earth tweets. Then Neil deGrasse gets mainstream television platform. Like, why did they,
Right.
select, this topic, a tweet, go through the trouble of bringing out this guy, getting this guy to come guest spot on the show,
Right.
just to come out and basically make B.O.B. look like a lunatic.
Yeah.
Not only that, scientist drops the mic. Or whatever, at the end of it. Like, boom, like putting the little exclamation point.
Right.
Yeah, just to totally discredit, and like you said, make the whole concept seem, boisterous and just ridiculous in general.
Outlandish for even thinking it. Like, how dare you,
Yeah.
even bring up such a topic? Or
Right. And then the Flat Earth Society has been a slang term for as long as I can remember in my life. Anytime you're talking about people that deny reality, they're part of the Flat Earth Society.
That stems back, though. I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
origins of America. I mean, things like that exist, like you said, back to when it was believed to be a flat Earth, and the maps, depicted as such.
Right.
It wasn't disproved until about 500 years ago when a couple guys that are Masons
Well, let's look at
come
here.
along and disprove it.
Not to cut you off there, Jay, but let's just take a look at a little bit of, a lot of the points that the flat earthers make actually are pretty good. I mean, they bring some good arguments to the table to where, like, anybody who's willing to go, that's how I go into everything that I look at, and I can't speak for everybody. If I'm delving into a subject, I'm not going onto it as if I already know the foregoing conclusion or the answers. Even if it's something I'm already pretty aware of, I try to be like, I'm just trying to...
Objective.
Right. I'm going to be objective, I'm going to absorb whatever I can, then form an opinion. The majority is going into this thing with an opinion already. Like, walls are up, it's a lunatic, fringe topic, I'm not going to touch it, I'm not even going to look at it.
Well, at this point, you would have to come into it with some sort of bias because it's been what you've taught or been believed your whole life. It does sound like kind of an insane notion because,
Yeah.
Just before you have ever really done any research on it, that's not something that would generally cross your mind as even a possibility.
Right.
Yet, like you said, the more you dig into it, it does present some pretty, perplexing ideas that kind of make you think.
Well, let's take a look at, so, it's hard to wrap your head around, or at least it was for me, like what in the world the Earth would look like flat to begin with, you know what I mean? Because we've so been indoctrinated into the globe. The globe is in every classroom
Right.
at a young age, every single one, to where it's right there prevalent in your
The
face.
solar system, all planets being this circular orb.
Right. So it's prevalent and in your face at a very young age to get you to think a certain way. So you're indoctrinated, and the globe model is prevalent and in your face and almost implanted in your subconscious, like Bert, like you were saying, like the solar system model is always right there, to where you're already brainwashed with that from a young age, so you're already going to be thinking of that nature. Now, NASA could put all this to bed if they would just release some valid pictures that look like they were done on Photoshop, or some videos.
Yeah.
Or that same kind of model that we're used to seeing, just that either three-quarter view. When you talk about, supposedly all the satellites that are in orbit right now, or Google Earth as a whole, why in the world can't you, at any given time, in this age of high-definition cameras, find any image you would want? Just a lot of weird things, but, it goes kind of to the moon landing thing.
Right.
These same weird-looking images that by now ought to have changed over, 50 years of technology.
And China has recently said that they're going to the moon. So
Really?
we should see, maybe there will be verification.
Well, what's like Bert was just saying, well, where's Google Moon? Why can't I do Google Moon and just look at, all the different cool stuff on the moon? Or, the same thing, like, the ISS satellite feed, the space station satellite feed, which is supposedly, that same still shot that you always see of this from the space station, of that view of Earth. And then conveniently, anything that comes into the image that's of interest or any abnormality, they cut the live feed. So, I mean, I've seen that numerous times. I mean, what in the, they can lay a lot of this to bed. Jay, we were talking once before, Bert, I know we've talked on it before too. My main gripe with all the NASA footage and all the NASA missions, why no 360-degree camera pan in space?
Yeah.
And there's the argument like, oh, you can't see anything, light doesn't refract till matter. I don't want to hear that. I want a full 360-degree pan. I do not want videos of the girls whose hair is hairsprayed up into the air to make it look like gravity is moving everything but this lady's hair, and it's sticking straight up in the air. I don't want to see my astronauts in harnesses.
Yeah, when you delve into a lot of those documentaries, the underwater shots, the harnesses, this all was born to me with looking into the moon landing hoax or supposed,
right?
And some of the ways that they can alter those shots is a pretty damning looking evidence.
Well, the underwater NASA stuff I always thought was pretty good evidence that there's something else going on. Jay, not to cut you off there, sorry about that.
Where they have the backgrounds all black because they have the lights turned off, and then they just have
stars
lights on them. Yeah.
And they're supposedly emulating space. Well, throw in a little CGI, a little camera work, and I mean, it's easy to just take that and make that space.
Right.
And you've seen those videos, those NASA missions, to where the bubbles, the water bubbles are popping up.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're sketchy. Oh, it's ice. Dissipating into the Come on, you guys could, like I said, you guys could lay a lot of this to bed if your Earth images weren't so shoddy, if your moon images weren't so shoddy, if you didn't edit everything that you sent out, even the feeds that you have that people don't already believe in, you censor.
Some of these things are the most basic questions, but when you think about the moon and what a propaganda piece that was at the time of the space race in the 60s with the Cold War looming.
Yeah, lots of motive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's the old, why haven't we been back? Why, again, like you said, is there not more? I mean,
it should be so much easier now. We're so much more advanced after 50 years, 45 years. It should be so much easier to do it now, but we can't do it.
Right. How is it, exactly, like you were just saying, Jay, how is it that technology has jumped vastly every avenue?
There's supposed expeditions to Mars or whatnot now, or this purported, kind of feelers out there that we're looking into that yet.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. It's like we're out supposedly exploring space. We haven't even explored the oceans. Like you know what I mean? Like we have no idea what's beneath us underwater. If they do, they're not talking about it. You haven't even explored the oceans yet, and you're out there worried about space.
Yeah. Or the polarity of what a lot of people say, and some of these are prominent scientists of, human beings' ability to even break the stratosphere or the radiation involved in that, and how that's not, so laughable of a possibility that we've actually explored space.
Well, that goes into, too, just like we were talking about the shoddy images in CGI. Look at all those images of NASA, supposedly all their launches that curve. They don't go straight up. They all curve.
Right.
There's all those images online you can see of where, it curves off. And you got, the pro round earthers will say, oh, it's because the Earth's round, or, this, that, the other. I'm not, this is not a topic I'm an expert at, so I can't get into the science behind it all. But
they could easily just go over the horizon and land in the water, and you would have no clue. They could just recover them in the water.
Right, and you would have no idea.
Or there could just be no one on the aircraft, and it could just be being shot like a rocket over the horizon, and you can just make a new one every time if you wanted to.
Well, to go back to what we were saying, like how to actually visualize it, the best way I can articulate a visual of what the flat earthers believe is the UN map. The United Nations flag. Yeah. Which has, a map of the supposed Earth.
Right, with Antarctica missing.
Right.
Yeah.
And now if the flat earthers are pointing to, well, that's the most true to reality map that there is that's in existence. Now, basically, for anyone who hasn't wrapped their head around this, it's everything, of course, flattened out, but what they believe is Antarctica, Jay, what is it, like a giant?
It forms a perimeter.
It's like
a giant ice wall.
Almost like Game of Thrones-ish,
right.
Where you have your giant ice wall that like basically keeps everything in.
And the North Pole's in the center of the map.
North Pole's in the center, the sun and moon circle
Right.
around the centers there, and I guess
Circle around the perimeter.
circle around, and that's get the distance changes with.
Right.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, if you start if you start the North Pole, which is the center of the big circular map, and you head in any direction, you always end up on this perimeter, which is
the ice wall.
the ice wall. And the same thing happens on a ball sphere planet. If you start on the North Pole and you head south, you always end in Antarctica.
Well, which is interesting, because if you look at it, you can't go explore the North and South Pole.
Again, a quick way to discredit a lot of this mythology and a lot of this conspiracy theory would be if you could
Right. Why
fly over that.
Why is there blockades of, Jungle Jim, who wants to go out and, I don't know, I always use Jim for my abbreviations to people for some reason, but we'll go with Jungle Jim. Why is Jungle Jim, who might have a boat and want to go out and explore the North Pole, he's turned away or arrested, or, you're not allowed free reign of the North and South Pole to go explore.
Right.
Which leads to, why don't commercial airliners fly over the North and South Pole?
And the reason they give is they say it's too cold for the machinery, but the height that airliners fly at, tens of thousands of feet, is already extremely cold.
Well, what's funny about that, what never made sense to me about that, all right, the sun's in space, supposedly correct according to their model, right?
Mm.
Why the higher you get, it should get warmer, because you're going closer to the sun. Why does it get colder? That never made sense to me. It's like, why would things get colder as you grow to a higher altitude?
Well, I think the idea is that the sun heats up the Earth, and you're not really getting much heat from the sun directly. Most of
It's the
heat.
bounce off the reflection.
It's bounce off. It's the rock Earth is the continents are absorbing the heat. That's why the northern hemisphere is supposed to be warmer than the southern hemisphere, because most of the land of the planet is in the northern hemisphere.
Well, you have the fact that you can't, this gives more credence to the pro-flat earthers argument. You can't explore the North and South Pole, it's blockaded. You can't fly over the North and South Pole,
Right.
commercially or non-commercially. And then the flight paths of a globe don't make sense.
Right.
The commercial flight paths that they use, Jay, you've seen that a bit, right?
Yeah.
To where, like, the commercial flight paths don't make sense. If the Earth was a globe, as they project it and portray it to be, the flight paths would not be what they use currently. It doesn't add up.
It would be a lot faster if you're in the southern tip of South America. It'd be much faster to fly over the South Pole to get to Australia.
Right.
But instead, they fly around it. And if you think of a flat Earth model, then that would be the shortest path. It would be around it because it flattens the South Pole out to be a perimeter around the flat Earth, and it is faster to go around the supposed poles. But they say it's because it's too cold to fly over.
Well, it's just a lot of red flags. Typically when there's smoke, there's fire.
That right there probably being the biggest one. Like you said, if you can look on a flat Earth model and make sense of it as opposed to
Right.
the other way, then
Well,
that's
then-
the proof in the pudding.
Then you get into GPS. GPS works differently in the southern hemisphere than it does in the northern hemisphere. And that also ties into, there's people out there that track flights. Believe it or not, there's like websites out there where you can go and like track where commercial airliners are and flight paths and this, that, and the other. It doesn't work the same for the flights in the southern hemisphere as it does the northern hemisphere. So for that, full-scale globe model to fully fit, that puzzle piece to fit in place, those are two big pieces that you would think would just slip right in there if, that puzzle was legit.
Yeah.
But no, that's not the case. Like, there's something there, whether it's flat Earth or not, there's something there worth looking at. And then my absolute favorite little information tidbit on the whole flat Earth subject, Operation High Jump, and Admiral Byrd and the expedition that they took there, I believe it was back in 47, don't quote me, to where they went down to explore Antarctica. They went down there, I believe they had over like 4,000 troops. This was a joint effort, Britain, Australia. They had a follow-up expedition as well. I mean, they went down there, and there was casualties. You could research the full story, but there's casualties, lives lost, planes, I believe, lost as well, and then reports of supposedly high-speed flying vehicles down there, flying faster than anything which they had ever seen, where Admiral Byrd was quoted as saying that they could fly from the North Pole to the South Pole at like speeds beyond which we could ever comprehend or had capabilities of. So I think that's always like the big, meat and potatoes. There's, some substance to what you can get to there, and look into Operation High Jump. And then you also, that ties into the whole not flat Earth argument, the hollow Earth argument. Like that, to go on the other side of that coin there is like, you got your flat earthers, you got your round earthers, you also got your hollow earthers. To which for me, that's even been an even harder visualization to grasp around is the hollow earth and how that works,
Right.
So
when you look into space, look up and above you, you're really looking across to the other side where there's another. The plane is the inside of the hollow earth, not the outside, right?
Right. So it's if you get into the hollow earth thing, there's those that say there's an inner sun, and then we have the outer sun, and that we're supposedly on the outside of the earth. And there's an inner earth, and that ties into Operation High Jump in the Nazis in World War II and Argotha. Supposedly Argotha is the name of a place within hollow earth that supposedly Hitler and the Thule Society and they were supposedly in communication with them. Supposedly Admiral Byrd had contact with these inhabitants of Argotha and Inner Earth as well. That's all speculative, of course. But supposedly there's entrances to the hollow Earth down in Antarctica and in the North Pole as well, and supposedly that would tie into why they would want to blockade that, so no one could access these locations. But another, like what we said earlier, Bert, where there's smoke, there's fire. An interesting thing to note from the whole Operation High Jump Admiral Byrd expedition came from the Antarctic Treaty. Admiral Byrd came back. Jay, you were talking about the interview earlier, where he was talking about the resources, where he was stating that there was vast amounts of resources down there.
Enough for the whole world to use.
And
could this be, an allusion to some of these other, the caves or some of the things you hear about of the stockpiling of, in sort of a doomsday event type deal?
So it's like they go down there, there's casualties, there's reports of vast resources, strange flying machines, possibly inner Earth entrances, but yet no one's allowed to go back. And everybody's on board with that after the fact. No one's going back. There's going to be no other expeditions down there. It's become, Antarctica is a scientific preserve, and that's that. And people don't test the limits. There's a video, and I can't remember who it's by, and it's an experiment done to where they put mice in a new environment, in like a caged environment, and like they spend a certain amount of time trying to find the exit before they give up and just accept the fact that there is no exit, and they accept their environment, and then they just begin to just live in that environment. And I would pose the question, is that not where your modern human is at right now? So even for those who want to go exploring, it's off limits, and to test and to search for those exits, or to test the realm of our reality, so to speak.
You'd be arrested if you fly over the South Pole. You're not allowed to. It's international law.
Right. Blockaded. Can't explore there via boat. And then you have to rely on the powers that be and their explanation and their images of the reality of the world that's supposedly around you.
Unless you go up there, unless you go into space. But they're going to do like civilian space flights now. They're going to do like space tourism now.
Right. We'll
So
see.
how can they do that? How can they do space tourism though? You know.
We'll see if it gets off the ground.
But you can only go if you're rich. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna be so expensive.
Right.
You can only go if you're like in the 1%.
Well, plus, if you think of the mythology that's built up about those bases, you know, think of the North or the South Pole or Antarctica as a whole. It's always had this desolate, you know, it's been ingrained into you that it's no man's land.
Remote and barren.
Period. Yeah. When any other land surface on the Earth, we know like the back of our hand. Yet, are you kidding? These two places.
It's off limits. And it's
Right.
like you can just like pull up to it with like a boat and get off. There's a giant like over 100-foot tall wall, sheer ice wall.
Right.
So you can't like approach. You have to go by. You have to fly over. There's only like only a handful of points around the whole thing where you can take a boat, and even then you can't like pull the boat up to like a shore. You have to slam like a giant boat into the side of it, and that's how you park it. You slam the big like 400-foot cutter or whatever ship. You slam it in the side, and it wedges into the ice, and you basically climb down onto the
Who has
ice.
the means to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. You have to be financially inclined to be able to do something like that, and then it's circumventing the powers that be to do something of that nature. But well, I mean, here at IOR, we don't really condone or push an agenda either way. I mean, as far as this whole topic goes, I mean, you know, in closing, I mean, guys, you want to chime in? I mean, Jay, I mean, what do you believe with this whole flat Earth fiasco?
I'm kind of, you know, I don't discredit everything. I put everything, something that I'll look into. There's a lot of stuff that you can't explain, you know, that if it is flat. But there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense in the other direction. And, you know, people were saying the same shit when it was 500 years ago. You know, crazy to think the Earth was round and flat. It was, of course, it was flat. So, you know, it's still something that you're on the fence on. Pretty leery of it, but it's still fun to look into and think about.
Bert, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's one that goes into the camp of who knows, you know, until there's definitive proof. Fun topic to try to research and to look at, and I mean, you can see both sides of the fence, but yeah, I think it's just a compelling subject all around. I'd love to hear anybody else's feedback, or, you know, any other videos or documentaries that might shed some light that I'm not aware of. So,
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to research it.
In the comments there, down below, either way, I mean, chime in, let us know what you guys think. Like Bert just said, any compelling evidence or videos, we always love to look up things of that nature and to research stuff like that. My own personal view on it, I'm of the belief, and it might be a little bit more extreme than most, that I don't even know if there is space. I mean,
Right. It's you talk about a rabbit hole. I mean, you're really questioning authority. I mean, that's a pretty basic thing to kind of think about as far as flat versus round.
when you can't trust a thing that these people are putting in textbooks, you can't trust the thing that they're putting in print, you can't trust the thing they're putting in, you know, television and radio and media. It's all propaganda, it's all lies. How, I mean, something is just basic but so big as a topic such as this, how could we put any stock into, you know, the supposed evidence of their videos or their animations or so? I'm of the belief of, I don't even know if there is space. I don't know if there's planets. I don't know if we're on a planet. I don't even know if this is Earth. I mean, we really don't know where we are, to be, I mean, just take a step back and look. I mean, we believe we're on Earth because we're told we're on Earth from, you know, and you're indoctrinated to believe that's where you are.
Yeah. You just gotta trust the smartest people in the room that say, trust me.
Yeah, trust me, I wouldn't steer you wrong. We're on a planet Earth.
And it's like you said, I think that could quickly delve into another topic of questioning authority as a whole, which is probably the basis for this whole discussion, for this site, for anything else in the CT community.
Right. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Like I said, down there in the comments, just let us know what you guys think about this whole topic here and any good videos or reading material on the subject matter we would be very interested in checking out. Thank you for everybody for the support. Thank you for everybody who's listened, who's liked and subscribed, checked out the website, illusionsofreality.com. Of course, we update it all day, every day, all night. So please check us out there, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share the videos. And Jay, thank you for
Oh yeah.
stepping onto the microphone, one of our behind-the-scenes members here, and getting in and joining us today. Bert?
Adios.
I think that's going to do it for the illusionsofreality.com, signing off.